Alright, what's going on, guys? So, a little bit sick, but I set out to make this video on my Snapchat story, so we're gonna make it. So basically, these clips that I'm editing right now, so I got headphones around my neck, they're from like a month ago or something. I completely forgot I recorded this, honestly. So, I'm doing a voiceover. Sorry for the excessive mouth breathing. My nose is very, very congested, but anyways, enjoy the video. So the topic we're going to cover today is how to track your macros. So we're going to answer some questions throughout the video, and those questions are right now. It's time to answer the first question, which is, what are macros? Alright guys, what's going on? So this video can be really long, but I'm going to try to not make it that long. But anyways, what are macronutrients? So, essentially, when you ingest macronutrients, your body's going to recognize them as calories. So, it gets recognized and then digested and broken down into energy. So, this energy is going to be used for different functions in the body. And the three main ones are metabolism, growth, and energy, or things that require energy expenditure, well, such as weightlifting. And the three macronutrients are proteins, carbohydrates, fat. So protein and carbohydrates, 1 gram of each of those is going to account for 4 calories. And for fat, 1 gram of fat is going to be equivalent to 9 calories. Alright, so the first macromolecule we are going to discuss is protein. So protein has the most amount of jobs or functions than carbohydrates and fat. What are protein molecules? Like, what is it? So a protein molecule is made up of these things called amino acids. So we get amino acids through food, and not all foods have the same amount of amino acids. So in most cases, that's why a lot of people have protein powder if they're trying to optimize muscle growth and repair, because protein powder has all of the amino acids. And like I said, not all sources of protein have all amino acids. So that's what they are. So for functions, the one that's most important to you guys is going to be muscle growth and repair, and preserving lean mass, and potentially energy source. I'll get there. But basically, when you ingest protein, or when you work out, what's going to happen is your muscles are actually going to get damaged. They have to get damaged before they can grow. And what happens as a result of that, so let's say you train chest day or something, and after that chest day, what's happened is the muscle fibers in your pecs have actually been broken down. So the job of the protein is to go into the pecs and essentially fill them up with protein to repair, with amino acids to repair the pecs, and in theory they should grow. So there's actually something called an anabolic window, which is a time frame in where it's more optimal for muscle to grow, or where your muscle is most sensitive after a training session. So anabolic, all that means is adding on, or growing, in this case, growing muscle. So an anabolic window, like I said, it's going to be 4 to 6 hours post-training session. Now, this isn't something I would say you necessarily should focus on. It's just like a little thing you can keep in the back of your head after a training session. Alright, so the other functions of protein, regulating immunity. So all that means is if you have a good amount of protein intake in your diet, your immune system is going to be better off. Catalyze chemical reactions, all that means is it's going to speed up the chemical reactions in your body that enzymes are performing. So the enzymes are they are a protein. And when there's an enzyme added to a chemical reaction, it's sped up. Preserve lean mass. This was the other important one. So when your goal is to lose fat, let's say you're doing a bodybuilding competition or something. You don't want to lose muscle mass as you lose fat, because when you get on stage, you're not going to look as big. Or if you're not doing competition, just in general, you don't want to lose the muscle you just built up. And what protein's going to do is, if you were to up your protein intake by a little bit, let's say like 10 grams, 15 grams or something, as you are cutting down, it's going to aid in keeping the muscle on there and help burn the fat off. So preserving lean mass. And then energy source. So if you were to do an all protein diet, I don't know why you'd want to, but let's say you did. You can do it, because protein does have a function of providing energy if it needs to. Like if you go into if your body goes into survival mode and protein is the only thing it's eating, it can provide energy. So yeah, that's just a little extra thing. Alright, so the next macronutrient are carbohydrates. So carbohydrates are carbs and fats are sources of energy. However, carbohydrates are called the immediate source of energy. Alright, so the reason why it's the immediate source of energy is because it has to do with the structure of it. So when we talk about proteins specifically, so we say structure determines function. And I guess you could say the same thing for this. So, or for all molecules in our body, the structure matters towards its function. So for carbohydrates, they're composed in these rings. So the rings are, we have simple carbohydrates and we have complex carbohydrates. So simple ones are called monosaccharides, and these are like sugars, like fructose, glucose, and glucose is actually converted into glycogen, as you can see on the whiteboard here. And glycogen is stored in the muscles, in the muscle cells for energy. And when this energy is not used, it gets converted and it's stored, or not converted, it's stored in fat cells. So that is why people have this correlation between carbohydrates and gaining weight, because if I eat they think if I eat carbohydrates I'm going to gain weight. Well, not necessarily. It's if you eat carbohydrates but don't burn more calories than you're consuming from the carbohydrates, or just in general, then yeah, you're going to gain weight. But if you are burning calories to make up for what you just ate, you're not going to gain any weight. So those are monosaccharides, sugars, and then polysaccharides. So these are the complex ones. These are the ones that are going to take longer to break down. So the examples of these are like potatoes. They're called starchy carbs. And yeah, so when you eat a potato, in general, it's going to provide energy over a longer span of time, and it's going to be consistent energy. So it's not going to be like, if you ever heard of a sugar crash, it's basically because you are eating simple sugars like dextrose and fructose or high fructose corn syrup. And what happens is it enters your body and gives you energy so quick that you end up crashing as a result of it. So because you have so much at once, immediately after it's being used, you actually dip below the energy that you were at before. So you actually end up being tired as a result of having something that's super sugary like that. So what a starchy carb would do is it would provide energy that's released consistently, so you wouldn't have this crash. Alright, so the next macronutrient, ooh, look at that transition. So the next macronutrient we're going to talk about is fat. So, like I said earlier, fat and carbohydrates, they do provide energy. However, fat is going to be better at providing long-term energy. So, what that means is if you were to run a race, let's say, you wouldn't want to have something high in fat like 20 minutes before the race. You'd want to have something like an orange, because it has sugars in it, simple sugars, so it's going to be broken down quicker within like 15 minutes. And that's why we said carbohydrates are an immediate source of energy. So fat is a great long-term source of energy. So if you have fat at the beginning of your day, it's going to be good for your brain function. Most of your brain, I think somewhere around 60% of your brain is made up of fat. So you need fat. You need all of these, but since we're talking about fat, you do need fat. Helps enhance the taste of what we're eating. And when we talk about eating our macronutrients, sure, hitting our requirements is good, but if we're not enjoying what we're eating, I'd argue there's really no point. Because if you're not enjoying the process, why are you even doing it? So having fat is going to help provide taste. Obviously not having an excessive amount. And then the final thing we got here is organ insulation. So that's why you have fat on your body. That is why cutting down for a bodybuilding competition, anywhere below say 6% and below, it's not, your body does not like being that low in terms of body fat percentage, because it puts your body at a greater risk for injury and just not being able to function correctly, because the organs aren't being insulated as much because there's not enough fat around them. Alright, so the second to last question is, why should we track? So the reason I believe, and what other people believe, that it is important to track our macros is many people underestimate the amount of calories that they're eating. So underestimating caloric intake and learning your eating habits. So I'm going to get to both of these, obviously. So when people say, oh, I'm not losing weight, or the other way around, oh, I'm not gaining weight, you should ask them, if you're their coach or you're just giving them advice, do you track your food? Do you actually know the exact amount of calories that you're putting into your body? Because what happens is, most of the time, people are often underestimating the amount of food that they're eating. So they think they're eating 2,500 calories a day, but by the time they actually weigh out their food, put it in whatever tracking they're using, like MyFitnessPal or something, they realize, hey, I'm only eating, 1,500 calories. So if I'm trying to gain weight, I need to eat more. Or the other way around is, oh wow, I'm eating 3,000 calories. I need to eat less if I want to lose weight. So it's good to just get a general idea of what amounts of food look like. So you don't have to track. I'd say you should track for 2 weeks. And after about 2 weeks, you can start to be able to estimate what certain foods look like. And then learning your eating habits. This is a huge one that it's more of a nuanced topic within 5 years, I'd say, past 5 years. And it's basically understanding your body, intuitively eating, knowing what, if I, for example, if I eat McDonald's when I'm bulking, so I can eat it if I make it fit into my macros, but I know personally I'm not going to feel good after I eat that, so I don't eat it. And that's because I've learned the habits my body have developed over the course of tracking what I eat. So it's just a point of being more connected with your body. That's going to help a lot. Alright, so if you guys have made it this far, thank you. So the reason why I'm going to explain this part like this is because it can get kind of confusing. So we're going to explain how to track calories and macronutrients. So let's start with the calories. Alright, so for the calories, first thing we need to find is our maintenance weight. So maintenance weight, all that means is the amount of food that you need to eat so that you can stay at the same weight. What you do is take your body weight and multiply it by 14, 16. Now again, this is in general, so it's going to vary per person, but this is a really good start. So multiply it by 14 to 16 to get your maintenance level of calories. And then this means plus or minus 300 to 500 calories depending on your goals. So if you were trying to cut, so you got a show or something and you need to get lean for the show, right? So what you would do is you would subtract
300 to 500 calories. 500 on the more aggressive side, but everyone's different. So 300 to 500 calories for a caloric deficit. And then if you're trying to bulk up, you would want to add 300 to 500 calories. What I'd recommend is try this out for about 2 weeks and see what happens. If you see that, let's say your goal is to bulk, and if you see that you're maintaining the same weight the whole time, then that's probably your maintenance weight. So then just add another 300 and just see what happens. It's all an experiment. So how you can track this is actually on an app called MyFitnessPal. Alright guys, so this is MyFitnessPal. It's a pretty good app for it being free. So you just click add food, and you add whatever food you eat. You can scan the barcode or type it in. I just scanned the barcode. And it gives you all the macro and micronutrients, and you see at the top there's your it says goal. So that's the goal amount of calories that I'm trying to eat every day. So you can put your goal in the settings, and then it'll show you, like right here, it shows you your macro goals too. It's just good to get an idea of how much you're putting into your body. You don't have to track every day. I track probably like a couple days out of the week. Make sure that I'm not overestimating or underestimating what I'm eating. And here's the weight gain that you can track too. I'd say you don't have to track your weight every day. Personally, I don't. I check like once a week, and especially because I'm bulking, it's just to get a good idea of like where I'm at. Alright, so now that we get the calories out of the way, let's get to the macronutrients. So, for protein, there's like a little scale I would say to use. So normally you hear just 1 gram per pound of body weight, but I'd say it could vary a little bit more. And if you are 10 to 15 or lower percent body fat, I would go with the 1.2. Now, if you're 20 to 30% body fat or higher, then ideally you'd want to use lean body mass instead of just body weight. So to get your lean body mass, if you are, let's say you're 40% body fat, your lean body mass is going to be 60%. You would take 60%, multiply it times your body weight, and that would be your lean body mass. So then you take your lean body mass, multiply it times whichever one of these numbers, probably the 0.8 because you weigh more, and then that gives you how many grams of protein you should be having per day. Now for fat, 0.3 to 0.4 grams per pound, and honestly you could go higher than this. Really, it depends on how you like feel after you have fat. So like personally, if I have a lot of fat in a day, like 70 grams of fat or more, I'll feel fine, but some people will feel really like lethargic. So in general, this is a pretty good range to use. Now, the reason that these are here is because, remember from earlier, we said that 1 gram of protein makes up 4 calories. So now that we have how much protein and how much fat we're going to be intaking, we're going to take that number and multiply it times 4 for the protein, and that'll give us how many calories we're getting from protein. And then for fat, since there's 9 calories per 1 gram of fat, we would take 9, multiply it times this, that would give us how many calories we're getting from fat. So then we take those, add them up, and then once we have that, we would subtract it from the total amount of calories that we eat in a day, and then we take that total amount of calories, divide it by 4, and that's how many carbs you would be eating in the day. So the carbs is just the leftover calories after you figured out fat and protein. I'm going to draw an example to make this a little bit more easy to follow. So we have an individual that's 200 pounds, 10% body fat. So he's in the 10 to 15% body fat range, so we can just use grams per pound for protein. The first thing we need is calories. So if we take 200, multiply it by 14, multiply it to 16, we get our range that we would fall into. So 200 times 40. This is the range that this individual would fall into, and then he or she would wait about 2 weeks and see how they feel after they do this. So let's say their goal is to bulk, so put on weight. Then let's just use 3,200 calories for this, and they want to gain weight, so we're going to add 300 calories. So then their calories that they would be consuming would be 3,500 calories per day. So now we got that. So for protein, we're going to take 200 pounds, and because they're leaner, we're going to multiply it by 1.2. 240 grams of protein per day. Now we got that. Now for the fat, we're going to say 200. And since the individual is bulking, we will go with 0.4, because that's the latter end of the scale. So this individual's fat intake for the day would be 80 grams of fat per day. So now we need to figure out the carbs. So we're going to take this, we're going to multiply this times 4, we're going to multiply 80 times 9, and this is going to give us calories we get from each of them. So let's do that. So we've multiplied these things out, so now we got the amount of calories we get from fat and the proteins. Now we're going to take them and add them together. So 960 plus 720. That's going to give us a grand total of 1680. So 1,680 calories from the fat and the protein. So now, to figure out the carbs, we're going to take this number and subtract it from this, because this is the amount of calories the individual is eating every day. So what's left over? 1,820 calories from carbohydrates. So now we know the calories, that's cool, but we need to know how many grams of carbs we're consuming. So because 1 gram of carbohydrates is equivalent to 4 calories, I take this, divide by 4. The individual needs to consume 3,500 calories, 240 grams of protein, 80 grams of fat, and 455 grams of carbs for them to gain weight. Now, of course, it doesn't work, like I said earlier. If they don't see themselves gaining weight, then they would simply add more calories and then do the process again, just make some small adjustments. And yeah.
Alright guys, so I lied. There's actually one more question, which is when should we track? So I'd say if you're just starting out, you should probably do it for like 2 weeks or something. That's what I did. And if you're bulking, maybe do it for like the first week just to get an idea and make sure that you're actually bulking, like eating enough to gain weight. And same goes for cutting, but it's definitely more important for cutting. Like if you're doing a bodybuilding show, you need to be super precise with your macros, especially when you get to the like 5% body fat. Another time you could track is for maintenance too. So if you're trying to maintain weight, as we talked about, it's just to like check to make sure that you're eating enough to maintain. Alright guys, so the video ended up being like 25 minutes long. I said I was going to try to make it short. It's a really long topic. I could have even went even more in depth, but I didn't. If you guys have questions, like something wasn't as comprehensive, or you want me to cover a topic in further detail in another video or something, comment down below. Share with a friend, leave a like, subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.